Ladies and gentlemen, would you like to take your seats, please? Just a few notices before we start this evening's entertainment. Today is actually the 18th birthday of the club. We'll be having a photo opportunity at the end of the chairman's talk. Just a few. Dear God, what happened? Indeed. A few things coming up. The Chap Grand Silver Jubilee Ball is going ahead. It's happening. On the 12th of October. Talking of the Chap magazine, I think Luca has a book to give away from Vic Darkwood, if The Lost Art of Travel, if anybody wants it. 2nd of November we have the new Sheridan Club annual pub crawl, which will be around northwest London, so Kilburnistan and places like that. The next club night is November the 6th, where we have a guest speaker, Joe Banks, with a talk entitled From Teds to Goths, the Evolution of UK Subcultures. And now to tonight's talk. It says here by popular demand, but I think that's a misprint. So. For the Lady Malvern Memorial Lecture, we have the chairman, Matthew Howard, talking on the Joy of Essex, a gourmet's guide to Essex. So thank you, Chairman.
Right. As Torquil just said, and good evening, by the way, good evening all. Thank you so very much for coming. It's very gratifying. So 18 years ago this month, the new Sheridan Club opened its doors. I was first made aware of its presence via early issues of a Chat magazine, and even after a mere 18 years of membership, there were still times when I feel like a new boy. When I first climbed the stairs of the last unhosted meeting in August 2006 of the original Sheridan Club, I felt the need to bring a chaperone and pop to the Bricklayer's Arms next door for sharpener. My chum Steve, who accompanied me, is many things, but a chap he is not. And as soon as the nutters, his word, began to arrive, he swiftly left, and I was left to my own devices. Everyone here has a story to tell of how they first came here. My attendance originated from the first Chap Olympiad held in Bedford Square Gardens, when I met two chaps also wearing pith helmets. One was Albion, sadly no longer with us, and the other was Sean Pearson, aka Bunty, occasionally of this parish, who was not only sporting similar headgear to myself, but also a Middlesex County Cricket Club tie, a club of which I was a member, and he shared the secrets of the guild. He was also thrifty. Come early was his tip. You don't have to pay, but do come along. The members who I recall meeting that evening
That's a long time ago.
included Miss Bell, who subsequently became Mrs. Robert Beckwith, Rachel Hartley, who subsequently became Mrs. Downer, and Helena Watterston, well, Watterston now, aka Lady Windermere, who subsequently married the Speaker of the House of Keys in the Isle of Man. All three married within the club, which properly considered is almost incest. Anyway, the welcome was warm and hopefully still is to new members. 3 of the initial committee still remain, of 4. 1 resigned and was replaced by me some 15 years ago. We're one of the only clubs to have 2 chairmen, but only one who invented the Chap Olympiad. And we're forever grateful, not only for the work Artemis Scarhart has provided over the years, but that which time allows today with a young family, living in Essex. And we owe a great debt of gratitude, not only to Clayton, but also to Ali Hartley, without whose efforts there frankly would be no club. I feel a round of applause is due.
I hope Ali's watching from home. Yes.
Well, have word with the husband, see if you can upload it tomorrow, yes. My advice to new members would be the same as that I gave to myself back in the day. Dive in, and if in doubt, offer the person with whom you're chatting a drink. So 18 years on, here I am. Membership of a club has not gentrified me. There's some rough types here, I must say, and I've been to the Oval. However, I'm still rude and invariably fall asleep on the way home after a club night, so not much has changed. In addition to all these traits, I've endeavoured to provide some light amusement to members over the years, recounting our family holidays in the style of irreverent travelogues. And as Greece, the location of our most recent excursion, isn't a particularly easy topic to satirise, I thought I'd look rather closer to home on this occasion. Some of my talks over the years have been criticised for my broad characterisation of national stereotypes, whereas the aim was sometimes to share with members such insights as to where one might be able to buy, say, under-the-counter bushmeat should we be entertaining African chief for Christmas lunch, and to let members know whether they can indeed buy umbongo should they be holidaying in the Congo. Hey. Which indeed they can. In this vein, when contemplating the subject of Essex, I could easily begin by illustrating such a talk, by considering the paintings of the likes of John Constable, who painted arguably his most famous work, The Haywain, which depicted a rural scene on the River Stour between Essex and Suffolk in 1821. Or perhaps by examining the rich Roman history of Colchester, the second largest Roman settlement in the country, and said to be the oldest recorded town in Britain after the Roman conquest of Britain in AD 43. But I didn't think I'd bother. Many over the years have done similar talks on such matters, some at considerable length.
The record is longer than that.
However, there's a lot to squeeze in half an hour, and other than giving us togas, fringed haircuts, the A12 and fast food, join in if you can. What did the Romans do for us? Precisely. However, if you're expecting a talk, making cheap verbal and visual jokes at the expense of an occasionally maligned county and its residents, you may be disappointed. There'll be no cliches tonight. Nothing offensive. No gratuitous jokes such as, what's an Essex girl's favourite wine? I want to go shopping, take me to Lakeside. I can't do that. Or, how do you know when an Essex girl has had an orgasm? she drops her chips. This one I almost considered highly unsuitable. Boy to Essex girl. Fancy Coco Van later. Essex girl, only if you put a mattress in the back first. The reason for this possible disappointment is, to be frank, it mostly goes downhill from here. Here we go. It's important when examining Essex that we look at precisely what goes in to make up its constituent parts, such as its buildings, its economy, its tourism, and its residents. With regard to its habitation, as I mentioned earlier, Colchester dates back to AD 43. In marked contrast, Basildon was built in 1949. It was created as a new town after World War II to accommodate the London population overspill from the conglomeration of 4 small villages, namely Pitsea, Lyndon, Basildon, viz. The most central of the 4, and Vange. It is surely quite a feat to build a new town in the aftermath of the Second World War, which looks as if it is twinned with Dresden following Bomber Harris's action. But, according to none other than Sir Nicholas Pevsner, Basildon is surely a contender for such an accolade. Although Basildon isn't known for its chocolate box type quality places such as Coggeshall typify, it is noted for being the birthplace of some of Britain's finest musicians. Some of those who remember the early 1980s can surely not forget Depeche Mode, whose 3rd single, Just Can't Get Enough, was written about growing up surrounded by concrete and wimpy bars in the 1970s. Yazoo will also be fondly recalled by many, and Basildon was the birthplace of Alison Moyet, who formed one half of a popular electro-pop duo. And Basildon is memorably recalled as a subject of one of their early hits, albeit with a slightly different slant. Music continues to be created even today by the residents of Basildon. And one beat combo, created by the dark musical comedy writer Wayne Clements, achieved some not inconsiderable notoriety by naming his band the band have achieved some level of infamy, if not only by their somewhat risque musical canon. The band, as some of you may be aware, had 4 top 20 hits in the UK singles charts, with songs named in a similar vein to that of the band. This reached a similar level of recognition, these occurring in Christmas 20 and Christmas 21 respectively, would you believe. These were followed by Prince Andrew is a Sweaty Nonce,
who did not sue for libel, Mick, of that, but you will.
which inexplicably just scraped into the top 20. And, of course, Fuck the Tories, which made number 7. It's only a pity that Top of the Pops is no longer made. So, what of Basildon today?
Didn't Tickerham also go from Basildon?
Suffice it to say that as recently as January 2023, the website Essex Live reported that Basildon today is home of one of the worst Witherspoons in the whole of the United Kingdom, which in light of a competition, I sense it's time to move on. According to Forbes, business-wise, Essex owes 99.97% of its wealth to the Ford motor plant in Dagenham. Opened in 1931, it has produced 10,980,368 cars and more than 39 million engines in its history. It covers around 475 acres and has received over 800 million of capital investment since 2020. Everybody in Essex works for Ford, and they all receive a free car for their trouble, which is nice, albeit in miniature. The UK, of course, has a rich history in the automotive industry, far exceeding the output of the Germans. We have Morris Garages of Oxford to thank for cars such as the MGB Roadster, of which this is the model from 1969. Lest, of course, we forget British Leyland, who of course made many memorable vehicles at their Longbridge plant near Birmingham, including the Austin Princess, the Austin Maxi, and the Morris Marina. It is, however, to the Austin Allegro that we owe them a debt of gratitude few can repay. My family were once owners of an Austin Allegro, and I can say, without fear of contradicting myself, it was the shittest car we've ever owned. Especially in this unique colour scheme, which we favoured. It is, however, to the Ford motor plant at Dagenham that the discerning motorist offers the greatest debt. Following the popularity of recreational pornography from the 1960s onwards, the Ford Motor Company introduced a range of vehicles named after what Viz comically referred to as jazz mags. By means of example, we have the Ford Fiesta, and of course, the best-selling Ford Escort. Here you'll note we have the legendary XR3i model, Sheridan edition. Some of you may remember this woman, Princess Diana, who too was a proud owner of a Ford Escort RS Turbo. Although in spite of appearances, she hailed from Northamptonshire, not Essex. Back in the day, rather like Samantha Fox, she was very popular with gentlemen. And many's the chap who were grateful for the reinforced suspension and roomy back seat of the sporty end of the Escort range. As I say, imitation isn't sincerest form of flattery, and this convention of naming vehicle, as I say, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and this convention of naming vehicles after pornography was later followed by British Leyland, who were late to the game with their Mini Mayfair, which was introduced in 1982. However, with the demise of the automotive industry in Britain and the cessation of vehicle assembly in Dagenham in 2002, sadly, there has never been a car named after readers' wives or Razzle. But that time may come again, with the rollout of electric vehicles when petrol cars are banned. Sporting-wise, Essex is home to more West Ham United supporters than any other team. A legacy of a relocation from the slums of the East End from whence 94% of the people of Essex can trace their roots. The East End and I have a barely a nodding acquaintanceship. My having visited this apparently charming and cosmopolitan area on precisely 2 occasions. Those who recall my address some 5 years ago, on the occasion of my 50th birthday, will recall my first visit in 2000 on the occasion of the funeral of one Charles Cray, Esquire. When I was greeted personally on the curbside outside English's, the traditional undertakers for funerals such as the Cray family enjoyed, I was greeted on the curbside by one of the chief mourners, Mad Frankie Fraser, who wound down the window of his limousine in which he was travelling and said, "All right, thanks very much for coming." I'm unsure quite how one responds to a gentleman certified insane on 3 occasions. Debrett's offering no guidance on this matter. Even in its most recent and updated editions. To the best of my recollection, I just said, "Thank you," which was rather out of character, as I'm not known for my reticence. The second occasion was for Stag Day of my fellow committee member, Artemis Scarhart, during which we visited the Blind Beggar Public House, dressed in the style as witnessed here. Unlike George Cornell, who was murdered by the Cray twins in the pub, we just about managed to get out alive, although to this day, I'm not still quite sure how.
I just assumed you were visiting from nearby Shoreditch.
According to the soap opera EastEnders, many people from the East End holiday in Essex, either in Leigh-on-Sea if they're professional types, or Southend if they're not. I hasten not to use the word common. I too have holidayed in Essex, on one of my occasional visits there for purely anthropological purposes, and once stayed in a caravan site out of season when my wife and I were paying £1,000 a month in childcare, which somewhat hit the opportunity, which spanked the budget, that's what I'm trying to say. So the continent was an option. Oh dear, hang on. Oh, I missed a slide. It was supposed to be a picture of me as King of the Gypsies. Anyway, it's I did my best to fit in, but possibly failed dismally.
Didn't miss much.
Clacton-on-Sea itself has its charms, which were mostly lost on me, as I visited with the mother of all hangovers, so I possibly didn't see it in its best light. There we go, that's me as the King of the Gypsies. Right. Whereas Basildon is home to the second worst Witherspoon's pub in Essex, Clacton, by contrast, is home to the worst example of the chain, as reported by none other than the Clacton Gazette, would you believe. The TripAdvisor reviews for the Moon and Starfish include such illuminating... I'm not making this up. The Moon and Starfish. Let's milk it. Include such illuminating insights as rough as a badger's arse, worse than Beirut, and don't go even if paid to do so. However, for those who choose to make Clacton the base of their holiday, they have a choice of prime excursions on the doorstep. And for those who wish to experience benefit tourism at its most inspoilt, one needs look no further the Jaywick Sands to witness Essex as nature intended. The casino is a prime example of the sort of entertainment venue only the 1960s could provide, although it's probably seen better days. The beach bar, as you'll see here, is not dissimilar to those one may encounter in the Caribbean, although rum punch was very much at a premium on the occasion when I visited. Some of the holiday homes have seen better days, to be fair, but there seems to be little of that second home problem which blights Devon and Cornwall. And should you wish to walk your dangerous dog on the sands, you'll be very much at home. However, any authoritative examination of Essex cannot be made without looking towards the men and women of Essex to see what one can learn from their make-up and behaviour. To save you, well, some of you, the trouble, and me of course, the trouble of actually visiting there, or going so far as to actually live there, one needs to consult the works of others who make the life of a recreational anthropologist rather easier. Classic examples of televisual anthropology include the series Disappearing World, which produced 47 episodes for Granada Television between 1970 and 1993. The episodes, each an hour long, focus on a specific human community around the world, usually, but not always, a traditional tribal group. Modern anthropology, however, centres on cultures closer to home. Such examples of this would be programmes such as Why Do We Do That?, which one can find on the home services, on a home service on the wireless. The programme is described as an anthropologist's guide to the modern world, in which Ella Al-Shamir investigates the origins of everyday human habits and behaviour. It is with these fascinating and highly informative programmes in mind, no doubt, that a similar exercise was undertaken by ITV2 some 15 years ago, looking at tonight's subject matter and in an insightful and in-depth way. The Only Way is Essex first appeared on our screens in 2010. Running for a scarcely believable 33 series since its commissioning, it brought the lives of real Essex residents to our screen and gave us an insight to the day-to-day life and loves of ordinary Essex men and women in their natural habitat. It is from Towie that we have learned some key traits of the indigenous population. For instance, we now realise that not everybody from Essex holidays within the county. For those for whom the delights of Frinton may not quite tick all the boxes, Marbella is now the apparent destination of choice. For the discerning holidaymaker, the Sun newspaper is printed daily in Spain, and the full English is widely available for a fistful of pesetas. Visitors may not, in the main, dress quite in the style of Alan Wicker, but many find it home from home. Presupposing, of course, they grew up next to a marina full of super yachts and had neighbours who looked like they lived on a diet exclusively made up of steamed vegetables, lettuce and cottage cheese. Ethnic migration is a big issue in Essex, if only based on the number of people who voted for Brexit in the 2016 referendum. If statistics based on a visit to Brentwood alone are to be believed, there are more Turkish people in Brentwood than in the whole of Constantinople. This empirical observation is based on comprehensive field work, primarily centred on trying to get one's hair cut by anyone other than a Turkish barber on Brentwood High Street. It is also from the same programme that one discovered that according to extensive and exhaustive research centred on the Sugar Hut nightclub in Brentwood and reported in the Lancet hear me now, via an article entitled "What's New in Women's Tackle," it would appear that 98.4% of women in Essex have no pubic hair. Instead, it is apparently de rigueur to decorate one's pubic area in an exercise known as vajazzling. The vajazzle went mainstream as a result of it being demonstrated by its inventor, Miss Amy Childs, in Series 1, Episode 11 of The Only Way is Essex, and it is now de rigueur from Southend to Chingford. An acknowledged expert in the field of intimate topiary, Anita Bush, has suggested that the amount of pubic hair removed in Essex could be enough to reupholster all of the furnishings on the Queen Mary II in both steerage and first class. Here we see the Queen Mary II, quite a feat, as you might imagine. Possibly soon to be renamed the Hairy Mary, as I imagine it will be marketed in the Cunard catalogue in the future. We proceed. Homo, from the Latin homo, meaning human, is a genus of great ape encompassing the extant species Homo sapiens, or modern-day humans, and a number of extinct species, collectively called archaic humans, classified either by ancestral or closely related to modern humans. These include Homo erectus and Homo neanderthalis. The oldest member of the genus is Homo habilis, with records showing their existence dating back just over 2 million years. Essex man, by contrast, was first identified by Simon Heffer, the Conservative historian and polemicist, in a column in the Sunday Telegraph on the 7th of October 1990. The socio-political phenomenon was well developed before it gained its name. Essex man and his family had previously been labelled the C2s by opinion pollsters and sociologists. As examined earlier in this talk, these were skilled manual workers who Margaret Thatcher invariably appealed to in her heyday. Everyone made loads of money during the Thatcher boom years and promptly spent it on conspicuous dentistry. The development of Essex woman is not so clearly defined. As received wisdom has it, of course, they are still Essex girls, not Essex women. The term Essex girl is a pejorative stereotype in the United Kingdom and is applied to a woman viewed as promiscuous and unintelligent, characteristics jocularly attributed to the women of the county of Essex, albeit not being quite so well received by the majority of its inhabitants. And the term has gained popularity over time, dating from the 1980s and gaining further coverage in the 1990s. I quote, "The stereotypical image formed as a variation of the dumb blonde stroke bimbo persona, with reference to estuary English accents, white stiletto heels, mini skirts, silicone augmented breasts, peroxide blonde hair, overindulgent use of fake tan, brackets lending to an orange appearance, promiscuity, loud verbal vulgarity, and socialising at downmarket nightclubs."
Yeah, yeah.
And this comes from Wikipedia, as Stacey would put it, not the Daily Telegraph. Time magazine expanded on this phenomenon and noted, "In the typology of the British, there is a special place reserved for the Essex girl, a lubs who dresses in white strappy sandals and suntan oil, streaks, not dyes you note, streaks her hair blonde, has a command of Spanish that only runs to the word Ibiza, and perfects an air of tarty prettiness." Well, to paraphrase the spirit of David Brent, I imagine he would have said something along the lines of, "I know a lot of women from Essex, and none of them are scrubbers." A view with which I very much concur, if not expressed in quite the same language as I might have chosen. Having occasionally encountered a slightly less than favourable insight to the noble county of Essex, one final aspect of Essex we need to consider is their contribution to the British nobility, specifically the colourful history of the Earldom of Essex. When examining the Earldom of Essex, one is immediately struck how many parallels there are with the Blackadder dynasty. One hailed from Putney, would you believe? Several came to quite a nasty end, and some, quite frankly, were bastards. So the parallels are plentifully apparent. There have been 9 creations of the peerage of the Earldom of Essex, dating back to 1139, with the 9th creation courtesy of King Charles II in 1661. And each creation begins with a new first Earl. Rather like the Blackadder dynasty, there have been some notable incumbents over the years. These included Thomas Cromwell, the only Earl of the 6th creation, Chief Minister to King Henry VIII, and no fan of Anne Boleyn, who, according to none other than the noted historian A.J.P. Taylor, he once described as being a bit of an old bike, which is no language for a gentleman. But then, of course, Cromwell did come from Putney, so he didn't have long to enjoy his title. He was ennobled and beheaded at the Tower of London in the same year, 1540. Sir William Parr was brother to Queen Catherine Parr, the 6th wife of King Henry VIII. Taylor describes him as a sincere, plain, direct man, not crafty or involved. It is indeed a blessing that such traits are not hereditary. Rather like Boise, Sir William Parr was also a noted jaffer, having married 3 times and produced no issue. Another noted Earl was Robert Devereux, the 2nd Earl of Essex of the 8th creation, who was a favourite of Queen Elizabeth I. In 1601, having led an abortive coup against the government of Elizabeth I, he was executed for treason at the Tower of London. The last person to enjoy this fate at the Tower. I say enjoy. It apparently took 3 attempts head, which can't have been much fun. His father, the first Earl of the 8th creation, didn't have much fun at the end either. He died of dysentery. In short, the Tower of London has featured heavily in the history of the Earldom of Essex. In fact, of the 125 people said to have been executed at the Tower of London, 47 were said to have held the title Earl of Essex. Who would have thought? So, what of the Earl of Essex today? An extensive examination of the 3 volumes of Burke's Peerage and Baronetage and the one of Debrett's I have in my library at home makes no mention of the current Earl. But the ever-risible Wikipedia suggests the current incumbent, the 11th Earl of Essex, may be a retired school teacher living in Caton in Lancashire. However, we of course know better. The current Earl of Essex received his title in 2004 and resides in Shenfield, in Essex of course. A shy and modest man, he rarely mentions his title and is never known to pull rank over us mere commoners when assuming his mantle of the man about town. The current Earl is a noted speaker on a dazzling variety of subjects. Many which we have enjoyed rather more times than any club should have the pleasure to receive. A keen amateur historian and writer, he is also the curator of the World War II Museum in Brentwood, which has a diverse and frankly disturbing array of interesting artefacts pertaining to the Second World War. Diverse. The museum's gift shop, decorated in a similar theme, always offers a warm welcome to visitors and sells a variety of souvenirs of one's visit. If 2 items is indeed considered a variety. The curator's magnum opus is in plentiful supply, and postcards of the curator are freely available at the gift shop. If not, it would actually appear free. There is one other notable fact about the habits of the current Earl. It is a matter of both principle and fact that Essex has never visited the Tower of London since his ennoblement. And this is reflected in the family coat of arms, which is a salutary reminder to the current incumbent of the fate of his forebears. Any classicists wish to translate for the masses, for whom a comprehensive education is not quite as comprehensive as it might be?
Don't visit the Tower.
Never visit the Tower.
Never visit the Tower. Possibly best not to tempt fate, after all. So, what has changed in the club during the last 18 years? Well, some people come, some people go. Some move on. Some breed, some do the decent thing and resign. Some have moved to Essex never to be seen again, where they engage in traditional local pursuits such as water sports and dogging. One went to prison. One is still missing, presumed murdered by North Korean agents for taking their glorious leader's image in vain. And some, very sadly, are no longer with us. There used to be bar service up here. Smoking is notably less popular than it used to be. But 18 years on, with the welcome injection of some new blood, as well as plenty of old blood, we're still here. Your glorious committee for life. Vivat Sheridan. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Couple of questions?
Surely not.
Yes, Luca.
Bring it out, man.
Is there actually a pub called?
What's that, sorry?
Is there actually a pub called the Moon and Starfish?
There is a pub called the Moon and Starfish. The worst pub in the worst Witherspoons in all of Essex. Yes. I think we should have a very brief round of applause. Don't disappear, ball. Come back. To Lucky Henry, who very thoughtfully ennobled the Earl of Essex and kindly beheaded him and did the artwork. So. Yes. Very good. Now, some good news. We're now going to have...
Question, please, question.
Oh, yes.
The vajazzling,
Yes.
is it compulsory? Because I'll have to tell my mum.
De rigueur. It's, yes. Is that it? Are we done? Now, we're going to do a photo. We've just got to set the tripod up. Clayton's got to sort the brownie out. I'm going to slice up some cake to say thank you all very much for coming and to sort of say, you know, we are not a club without you all. And 18 years ago, I wasn't quite floundering, but by the same token, a new injection of something into my life was required, and I didn't know this was going to be it. But thank you very much indeed. So, great. 5 minutes for a photo. So if you want to pound your nose, get a beer or something. But if you can come back in 5 minutes, we'll set it all up and hopefully welcome cake. Thank you very much. Right.
Big thank you to the glorious committee.
Well, thank you.